Welcome to our 90 Plus Spectacular, a celebration of those 90 years of age and over in Wood County, Ohio. This event is in its 14th year and is celebrated in honor of National Senior Centers Month. A special thank you to our in-person event sponsors. Dinner was sponsored by the Bowling Green Manor at Perrysburg, and Hanneman Family Funeral Homes. The corsages and boutonnieres were sponsored by the Willows of Bowling Green. Framed certificates were sponsored by Woodhaven Healthcare. Entertainment was sponsored by Ohio Living, Home Health, and Hospice. The in-person event photos were provided by Heritage Corner Healthcare Campus, and the centerpieces were provided by Brookdale of Bowling Green. Please enjoy a spotlight on our 90 Plus honorees. Denny Barrett was born in 1929 and is 95 years of age. He grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and Wilmette, Illinois. He attended New Trier High School, Carleton College in Minnesota, and Michigan State University. He was an accountant for General Electric and Teledyne Senior Centers. He's widowed after 61 years and has 6 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. A significant memory from his life is boogie-woogie dancing in his future wife's backyard on the day they met. He accidentally tossed her into the bushes, but they eventually did get married. His piece of advice to future generations is to be good to your parents and to your kids. Congratulations, Denny. Carol Bishop was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in Columbus Grove, Ohio, and was a teacher. She's widowed with 3 children. Congratulations, Carol. Pat Brenneman was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up southwest of Lima, Ohio, and attended school at Shawnee. She had experience in shipping and receiving and accounts payable and receivable. She was also a legal secretary and a mediator in small claims court. She's widowed and has 3 sons, 9 grandchildren, and 11 great-grandchildren. A significant memory in her life is her wonderful family and many friends. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be kind and compassionate and trust in the Lord. He will help you through all kinds of tribulations. Congratulations, Pat. Kathleen Buer was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in the Hawaiian Islands and attended a Christian school. She took dictation for a living and was a school teacher. She is widowed. A significant memory from her life is when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be honest with yourself. Congratulations, Kathleen. Ralph Burnside was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. He grew up in Signet and attended Signet High School. He was a registered land surveyor and worked for the Ohio Department of Transportation in the survey section of location and design. He is married with 2 children, 3 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. A significant memory in his life was buying a Weezer motorbike with money he had worked hard to save. He now owns a Weezer motorbike today. His piece of advice to future generations is to get a good education, work hard at a job you like, set goals, think positive, and believe in yourself. Congratulations, Ralph. Jane Chaika was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in Northwood, Ohio, and attended Northwood and then Lake High School. She was a housewife and worked in an office at Brunswick Braun and Wholesale Hardware for a living. She's widowed and has 6 children, 16 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life was growing up on a farm with 11 siblings. She loved growing up in a big family. Her piece of advice for future generations is to be honest and to be close to Jesus. Congratulations, Jane. Cliff Campbell was born in 1932 and is 92 years of age. He grew up in Maumee and attended school there. He was a letter carrier for the Maumee Post Office for 37 years. He is married with 2 sons and 1 granddaughter. His significant memories include camping with family for over 35 years, Western square dancing, and playing Santa at Kmart. His piece of advice to future generations is if you want to do something, do it when you're young because you might not be able to do it when you're older. Congratulations, Cliff. Peggy Carsey was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in New Marshfield, Ohio, and attended school in New Marshfield. She was a secretary for 2 deans at The Ohio State University. She's married and has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Her most significant memory is flying to the territory of Alaska to marry Sheldon, who was in the Air Force. Her piece of advice for future generations is to be kind and generous. Congratulations, Peggy. James Christensen was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in Walbridge and attended Walbridge High School. He worked at CSX Railroad. He is widowed with 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. His most significant memory in his life was renewing his friendship with Mary Jane Finch after losing his wife of 61 years. His piece of advice to future generations is all things are possible with God. Congratulations, James. Dorothy Klein was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Perrysbrook Township and attended Lime City schools. She worked in various clerical positions, ending as a postmaster. She's widowed with 4 children, 10 grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren, and 3 great-great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory is attending a postal convention in Hawaii. Her piece of advice to future generations is to try to remember wisdom. Congratulations, Dorothy. Nora Colapetro was born in 1924 and is 100 years of age. She grew up in Rossford and attended Rossford Public Schools. She worked at Libby Owens Ford during the war and was a head cashier at Rossford Bank. She's widowed with 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 18 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is her graduation and wedding. Her advice to future generations is to live each day and be happy. Congratulations, Nora. Grace Crone was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. She grew up in Tontogany, Ohio, and attended Washington Township High School. She taught music at Sycamore, Pettysville, and Otsego schools. A significant memory from her life is her relationship with her students. They were her kids, and they still visit. Her piece of advice to future generations is to not hurry and take your time. Congratulations, Grace. Maxine Cross was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in Western Township and attended school at Webster. She worked at Huntington Bank for 30 years. She's widowed with 2 children and 4 grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is the wonderful times she shared with friends and family. Her piece of advice to future generations is to continue to make many friends at church and with your neighbors. Congratulations, Maxine. Lee Deffenbaugh was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. He grew up in Defiance, Ohio and Rudolph, Ohio. He attended Liberty High School and then worked at American Metalcraft in Waterville for 42 years. He is married to Sally Deffenbaugh and has 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from his life is raising their family on Digby Road. His piece of advice for future generations is to have faith and respect others. Congratulations, Lee. Sally Deffenbaugh was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in Macomb and Rudolph, Ohio, and attended Liberty High School. She worked 10 years at the Wood County Auditor's Office after raising 5 children while managing the house. She is married to Lee, and together they have 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is traveling, with the highlight being their trip to Israel. Her piece of advice for future generations is to have faith, work hard, be frugal, and creative. Congratulations, Sally. Paul Downey was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. He grew up in Toledo and attended Clay High School. He worked 7 days a week for Millwright in machinery maintenance. He is widowed with 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. His most significant memory in his life was coaching Little League baseball and attending Eastwood sporting events and being avid churchgoer. His piece of advice to future generations is to stay on track. Congratulations, Paul. Clifton Falls was born in 1931 and is 93 years of age. He grew up in Moline and Lake Township and attended Lake schools. He is retired from the U.S. Army, a regional director for insurance claims, a pilot, a flight instructor, and a computer programmer. He is widowed with 2 children and 3 grandchildren. Significant memories in his life are too many to list. His piece of advice to future generations is to live every day as a good day and live it to the fullest. Congratulations, Clifton. Louette Fiesel was born in 1929 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in Bloomdale, Ohio, and attended Bloomdale High School. She worked as a part-time clerk at the U.S. Postal Service and retired as a postmaster. She is widowed and has 3 children and 7 grandchildren. Congratulations, Louette. Mary Jane Finch was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in Walbridge and attended Walbridge High School. She was a stay-at-home mom. She worked at Sun Oil Refinery and was clerk treasurer for the village of Walbridge. She is widowed with 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters and 9 great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory is losing her husband Carl after 63 years of marriage. Her piece of advice to future generations is to follow Jesus, our Savior. Congratulations, Mary Jane. Naomi Golden was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She is widowed with 4 children. Congratulations, Naomi. Emmy Hahn was born in 1930 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and attended Hood College and Catholic University of America. She was a registered dietitian in the U.S. Army and at Wood County Hospital, and an instructor at Bowling Green State University and Owens Community College. She is widowed and has 4 children, 3 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. A significant memory from her life is meeting her husband at a State Department lecture. That meeting produced 56 years of marriage. Her piece of advice to future generations is to set goals early in your life and work to achieve them. Congratulations, Emmy. Geraldine Haustein was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up and attended school in Rawson. She worked at RCA for a living. She was married with children and has grandchildren. Her piece of advice is to work hard and to help with your grandchildren. Grow and have a good work record and be proud of it. Congratulations, Geraldine. Rosemary Henderson was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in East Alton, Illinois, and attended Bowling Green State University. She was a special needs teacher in North Baltimore. She has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is going to Bowling Green State University and then teaching for 21 years. Her piece of advice to future generations is to get as much information from your parents and grandparents while they're still here. Congratulations, Rosemary. Dale Johnson was born in 1930 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in Lake Township and attended Lake schools. He worked at Owen Libby Ford for 41 years, played accordion in a band for 50 years, and played church organ for 65 years. He is married with 3 daughters and 7 grandchildren. His most significant memory is being married to the same person for 73 years. His advice to future generations is to be truthful and honest and to treat others as you would like to be treated. Congratulations, Dale. Jean Johnson was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in West Toledo and attended Whitmer schools. She was a homemaker, helping to raise their children. She is married with 3 children and 7 grandchildren. A significant memory in her life is the birth of her 3 daughters. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be kind to everyone and to respect other people's opinions even if you don't agree with them. Congratulations, Jean. Ruby Kietzel was born in 1928 and is 97 years of age. She grew up on a farm outside of Bowling Green, Ohio, and attended school in Tontogany. She was a babysitter for a living. She is widowed and has 1 child. A significant memory from her life is spending time with family and traveling with her husband. Her piece of advice to future generations is to love each other and treat everyone kindly. Congratulations, Ruby. Melvin Carnes was born in 1927 and is 97 years of age. He grew up in Pemberville and attended Pemberville schools. He was a farmer. He is widowed with 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 18 great-grandchildren. His most significant memory in his life was when he and his wife were selected to be king and queen of the Pemberville Fair. His piece of advice to future generations is at bedtime to always say I love you and kiss your spouse goodnight. Congratulations, Melvin. Shirley Kingsley was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Erie, Michigan and attended Monroe High School. She is widowed. Her most significant memory in her life was entertaining at assisted living homes with a group called On the Road Show. Her piece of advice to future generations is don't hold grudges, stay happy, love your fellow men and women, keep laughing, and be kind. Congratulations, Shirley. Elizabeth Kretz was born in 1925 and is 100 years of age. She grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and attended Notre Dame Academy. She worked at Owens, Illinois Glass Company. She is married with 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is when she found her future husband at the co-ed weekends at the YMCA. Her piece of advice to future generations is to go to church. Congratulations, Elizabeth. Patricia Little was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in McClure. She was a librarian. She is widowed with 5 children and 8 grandchildren. Congratulations, Patricia. Lynn Long was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. She grew up in Illinois and attended school and graduated from Nursing Cottage Hospital. She worked as an RN. She is widowed with 4 children and 12 grandchildren. Her significant memories include going to protests, sharing her concerns, and advocating for our country. Her piece of advice for future generations is to realize the reality of climate change and do your part in combating it. Congratulations, Lynn. Nancy Loomis was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Bowling Green and attended Bowling Green High School. She was a secretary and accounting clerk. She has 1 daughter and 1 son, 3 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was the birth of her children. Her piece of advice to future generations is to make the most of life, respect others and yourself, laugh and enjoy life. Congratulations, Nancy. Norma McCartney was born in 1928 and is 97 years of age. She grew up in Van Buren, attended Van Buren schools. She helped on the farm and worked at a factory. Congratulations, Norma. Patricia McGinnis was born in 1928 and is 97 years of age. She grew up in Fostoria, Ohio, and attended both Fostoria High School and Bowling Green State University. She worked for 20 years as a kindergarten teacher and 10 years as an elementary school principal. She also worked part-time for Bowling Green State University and served on Bowling Green City Council for 4 years. She is widowed and has 1 son and 2 granddaughters. Her significant memories include receiving the Bowling Green State University Alumni Community Award in 1986, the Bowling Green Outstanding Citizen Award in 1987, and the Athena Award in 2005. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be true to yourself and to always do your best in all you do. Congratulations, Pat. Andy McKee was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. He grew up in Lima and attended South High School. He was a butcher for A&P and Kroger and a greeter at Meijer. He is widowed with 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. His most significant memory is the birth of his children and meeting his future wife at a square dance at Shawnee Grange. His piece of advice to future generations is to have faith in the Lord, love your neighbor as yourself, and always be kind to everyone you meet. Congratulations, Andy. Carol Meek was born in 1934 and is 91 years of age. She grew up in Macomb, Ohio, and was a farm wife for a living. She was married to Cliff and had 6 children and lots of grandchildren. Her piece of advice is to trust in God. Congratulations, Carol. Doris Miller was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up and attended school in North Baltimore, Ohio. She helped her husband with an insurance company. She was married to Don and had 2 children and 4 grandchildren. A significant memory in her life was roller skating. Her piece of advice to future generations is to listen to your parents. Congratulations, Doris. Roberta Miller was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Illinois and attended school in Rock Island, Illinois. She worked in accounting. She is widowed with 1 daughter and 2 sons, 3 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and 5 great-great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was receiving a toy piano at her grandmother's house one Christmas morning. Music has always been a big part of her life. Her piece of advice to future generations is to love, as love is the answer to everything. Congratulations, Roberta. Bessie Moyer was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Alabama and worked as a secretary. She is married with 4 children and 11 grandchildren. Congratulations, Bessie. Tom Moyer was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. He grew up in Oroville, California, in the Randsburg Mining District. He attended Randsburg High School, Oklahoma State University, The Ohio State University, and Methodist Theological School. He was an aerospace engineer and a United Methodist pastor. He is married with 4 children and 11 grandchildren, including a set of quadruplets. His most significant memory in his life was his uncle's advice to join the Wesley Foundation at Ohio State. His piece of advice to future generations is to become a part of a church of your choice and to live a full and joyful life. Congratulations, Tom. Beverly Murphy was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Signet and attended Signet and Weston schools. She was a school secretary at Otsego schools. She is married with 5 children, 19 grandchildren, and 40 great-grandchildren, and 18 great-great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was spending time with family and retirement in Florida. Her piece of advice to future generations is to honor each other. Congratulations, Beverly. Beverly Murray was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in Dunbridge and attended Bowling Green High School. She was a secretary at Otsego, Bowling Green State University, and Penta schools. She is widowed with 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was riding a camel at a barbecue supper in the Australian outback. Her piece of advice to future generations is to laugh often, love much, and thank the Lord each day. Congratulations, Beverly. Doris Nye was born in 1925 and is 100 years of age. She grew up and attended school in Clyde, Ohio. She was a housewife and has children and grandchildren. A significant memory is living on the farm in Clyde. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be happy, to have good friends and family. Congratulations, Doris. Victor Norton Jr. was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. He grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and attended Yale and the University of Michigan. He was a mathematics professor at Bowling Green State University. He's married with 4 children and 7 grandchildren. His most significant memory in his life was drawing cartoons for Cycle Sport magazine and enjoying his career as a mathematics professor at Bowling Green State University. His piece of advice to future generations is to keep up the good work and don't give up. It's not that easy growing up. Congratulations, Victor. Ruth Peters was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Lucky and attended Webster Township schools. She was a medical technician. She's widowed with 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Her most significant memory in her life was becoming a great-grandmother. Her piece of advice to future generations is to take care of your health. Congratulations, Ruth. Lauren Phillips was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in Wyandotte County and attended Sycamore schools. He was the owner of a consumer electronics business. He's widowed with 2 children, 1 grandchild, and 1 great-grandchild. His most significant memory in his life was being married to Frances and raising their 2 children. His piece of advice to future generations is to maintain a positive and friendly attitude, keep an open mind, and don't unjustly prejudge your fellow human beings. Always try to do the right thing. Congratulations, Lauren. Joan Potter was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in Grand Rapids and attended Grand Rapids schools. She was an administrative secretary. She is widowed with 4 children, 10 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was when she met her second husband, and they were together for 50 years. Her piece of advice to future generations is to stay close to the Lord. Congratulations, Joan. Sue Potter was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She was born in Bowling Green, Ohio, and shortly after, her family moved to rural Rudolph, Ohio, and she attended Liberty High School. She worked as a secretary at the U.S. State Department in the Foreign Service sector. Her significant memories include spending most of her service years working at embassies and consulates in Africa, Europe, Asia, and finishing in Toronto, Canada. She also recalls returning to live in Bowling Green in 2001. Her piece of advice for future generations is to make good use of your early years. Congratulations, Sue. Chuck Puffer was born in 1930 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in Lansing and attended school there. He was an automotive engineer. He has 5 children and 18 to 20 grandchildren. His most significant memory is his singing ability in Lansing. His piece of advice to future generations is to be honest and true to yourself. Work hard at your job, it pays off. Congratulations, Chuck. Joanne Rader was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up and attended school in Macomb, Ohio. She was a homemaker and a farmer's wife. She is widowed with 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 15 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is gardening, canning, serving, and doing field work. She also enjoyed playing organ for a church for over 50 years. Congratulations, Joanne. Roy Rife was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. He grew up in Bowling Green. Congratulations, Roy. Shirley Rose was born in 1932 and is 92 years of age. She grew up in Wood County and attended school in Portage Township. Shirley held a secretarial position with the same insurance company for over 30 years. She has 3 daughters, 2 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. A significant memory of hers includes many vacations, trips, and cruises with family and friends. Congratulations, Shirley. Bob Russell was born in 1933 and is 91 years of age. He grew up in Genoa, Ohio, and attended Genoa schools. He was a glass worker at Libby Owens Ford. He's widowed with 3 children. His most significant memory in his life was working at Libby Owens Ford, which gave him the opportunity to travel around the world and live in Hawaii. Congratulations, Bob. John Rutter was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in Bowling Green and attended Bowling Green City Schools. He worked at Libby Owens Ford in Rossford. He's widowed with 4 children and 9 grandchildren. A significant memory of his is spending 18 months in Korea. His advice for future generations is to have faith, family, and friends. Congratulations, John. Catherine May Schultz was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up in Grand Rapids, Ohio, and attended Grand Rapids schools. She was a beautician for 19 years, a cook for 6 years, and a food supervisor for 8 years. She's widowed and was married for 63 years. A significant memory of hers was working with young people for many years at Buckeye Girls State and volunteering at the American Legion and the Grand Rapids Area Senior Center. Her piece of advice to future generations is you have to be a friend to have friends. Congratulations, May. Rita Shoney was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. She grew up in Alliance, Ohio, and attended Goshen High School. She was a clerk at the Great Scott grocery store in Bowling Green. She's widowed with 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 25 great-grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is the birth of her first son, and also when her brother flew her to school in their uncle's airplane. Quite a way to arrive at school. Her piece of advice to future generations is to make sure you do the things you like to do as often as you can. Congratulations, Rita. Vic Sherman was born in 1933 and is 91 years of age. He grew up in Pemberville, Ohio, and attended the University of Toledo. He was a draftsman and then an engineer working in the appliance industry. He's married with 3 children, 4 stepchildren, 4 grandchildren, 8 step-grandchildren, and 9 step-great-grandchildren. A significant memory from his life is the day he graduated from the University of Toledo after 11 years of night and day classes, obtaining his BSEE while working 40 hours a week and raising 3 children. His piece of advice to future generations is to get as much education in your area of liking and do not get involved in obscene debt from schooling costs and spending beyond your income. Congratulations, Victor. Glenn Schwind was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. He grew up in Perrysburg Township and attended St. Rose and Perrysburg schools. He was in the Army, was self-employed, operated heavy equipment, and was a shop superintendent, mechanic, truck driver for Craig Transportation. He is widowed with 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. His most significant memory in his life was dating and marrying his wife, and the birth of his children, and camping. His piece of advice to future generations is to be kind, patient, and understanding. Congratulations, Glenn. May Scott was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in Tontogny, Ohio, and attended school in Washington Township. She was a homemaker. She's widowed with 3 children and 6 grandchildren. A significant memory from her life is taking short trips with her husband, daughters, and niece. Her piece of advice to future generations is to always go to bed with arguments resolved. Congratulations, May. George Cypher was born in 1926 and is 98 years of age. He grew up in New York City, New York, and attended Antioch College. He was a precision lens polisher and then a professor of education at Bowling Green State University. A significant memory from his life is giving the first endowed scholarship at Antioch College to a student who went further to get her law degree. His piece of advice to future generations is to work hard and always try to do your best. Congratulations, George. Josephine Spence was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. Congratulations, Josephine. Bonnie Stearns was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. She grew up in Wren, Ohio, and attended Heidelberg College and Ashland University. She was a first grade teacher at Conneaut Schools for 33 years. She has 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was being a volunteer docent at the Mazza Museum in Findlay and traveling to many authors and book illustrators' homes, including Eric Carle, Mark Brown, and Patricia Palsko. Her grandson shared at school that his grandma had gone on a date with Eric Carle. Her piece of advice to future generations is to take one day at a time. Congratulations, Bonnie. Doris Stroh was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in Weston and attended Milton schools. She was a homemaker and helped on the farm. She is widowed with 4 children. Her most significant memory in her life was working on the farm and canning the farm's produce. Her piece of advice to future generations is that farming is fine. Get back to your roots. Congratulations, Doris. Olivia Tellez was born in 1929 and is 96 years of age. She grew up in Dilley, Texas. She was a homemaker and is widowed with 10 children. Congratulations, Olivia. Judith Tertulani was born in 1935 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Italy and attended school in Italy and the US. From age 16, she worked in a light manufacturing factory 5 days a week and went to school at night. She's married and has 3 children and 2 grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was the first day she arrived in the United States. Unable to speak a word of English, not having seen her dad all through the war, and the day she first saw her future husband. Her piece of advice to future generations is to thank the Lord every day, work hard, love and take care of your family, and be helpful to others. Congratulations, Judith. Stephen Tarotulani was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. He grew up in East Toledo and attended Macomber High School. He was in the Army for 4 years and worked at General Electric and Sun Oil. He's married with 3 children and 2 grandchildren. His most significant memory in his life was when he met his future wife. They've been married for 69 and a half years. His piece of advice to future generations is try to do the best you can do and try to thank the Lord every day. Congratulations, Stephen. Phyllis Townsend was born in 1930 and is 95 years of age. She grew up in Chicago and attended Bradley University and the University of Illinois. She was a home economics teacher. She's widowed with 2 children and 1 grandchild. A significant memory of her life was having her children and raising them. Now they both help her, and she is very thankful. Her piece of advice to future generations is to take the opportunity to travel the world. Congratulations, Phyllis. Donna June Van Voris was born in 1931 and is 94 years of age. She grew up on a Webster Road farm in Bowling Green, Ohio. She attended school at Webster Township Schools, Bowling Green City Schools, and Ohio State University. She was a secretary, bookkeeper, and homemaker. She's widowed with 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Her piece of advice to future generations is to use her everyday survival kit. It includes a Band-Aid to remind you to heal hurt feelings, Candy Kiss to remind you that everyone needs a hug and a compliment every day, a pencil to remind you to count your blessings every day, a tea bag to remind you that you never know how strong you are until you are in hot water. Congratulations, June. Margaret Walker Connor was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. She grew up outside of Weston and attended school in Weston and Grand Rapids, Ohio. She worked as a school teacher. She has 1 daughter. A significant memory for her is attending Bowling Green State University for a bachelor's degree in education, and then moving to California for school, plus living and teaching there for 40 years. A piece of advice that she will give future generations is to continue school, college immediately after attending high school. Study habits will be easier to transfer. Congratulations, Margaret. Ruth Walters was born in 1932 and is 93 years of age. Congratulations, Ruth. Gerald Lee Warren was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. He grew up in Peoria, Illinois until he was 11, and then he moved to San Jose, California. He attended several schools, but graduated from Abraham Lincoln in San Jose. He was an accountant for Gulf Oil, Chevron, Soho, and retired from BP in 1993. He married Peggy Eicher in 1957, and they had 2 daughters, 6 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. A significant memory in his life is being in the Air Force from 1952 to 1956. He spent 2 years in Japan as a radio operator for the Secret Service. He has traveled to 49 states except Alaska and was happily married for 68 years. A piece of advice he would give to future generations is to love your family and friends, and most of all, love the Lord. Congratulations, Gerald. Velma White was born in 1929 and is 96 years of age. She grew up in Bardstown, Ohio, and attended school in North Baltimore. She was an RN at Blanchard Valley Hospital for 50 years. She also worked in California and Colorado Springs. She's married to Kenneth White and have 3 children. A significant memory from her life is traveling with her husband while he was in the service. Her piece of advice for future generations is to do unto others as you would have done unto you. Congratulations, Velma. Lola Wilson was born in 1934 and is 91 years of age. She grew up in Athens, Ohio. She was a homemaker and a cleaner. She had 3 children. Her most significant memory in her life is holidays with her family. Her piece of advice to future generations is to stay in line and do right by them. Congratulations, Lola. Marilyn June Winner was born in 1928 and is 97 years of age. She grew up in Findlay. She was a housewife. She's widowed and has 2 children and more than 10 grandchildren. Her piece of advice to future generations is to give love and they'll give it back. Congratulations, June. Marilyn Whitker was born in 1933 and is 92 years of age. She grew up in Bradner, Cleveland, and Pemberville, Ohio. She attended Bradner School, Brownell Junior High, and Pemberville High School. She completed window displays for Winkleman's and was a housewife. She's widowed with 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 15 great-grandchildren, and 9 great-great-grandchildren. A significant memory in her life is her wedding, her children, grandchildren, and her husband was Commodore at their yacht club, and she was First Lady. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be kind and listen to what people have to say. Congratulations, Marilyn. Betty Wolfe was born in 1934 and is 90 years of age. She grew up in Northwest Ohio and attended Clay High School. She was a housewife, a farm wife, a custodian, and a bank teller. She's widowed with 4 children and 6 grandchildren. Her most significant memory in her life was being organized, nurturing, religious, doing puzzles, cooking, dancing, and playing bunco. Her piece of advice to future generations is to be a good person and watch out for others. Congratulations, Betty. A special thank you to all those who enjoyed our video in honor of National Senior Center Month. Thank you to all our great sponsors, and especially thank you to the Wood County Committee on Aging for supporting this project.